Good morning, everyone. It's Senator Ralph Babet here, obviously from the United Australia Party. I'm here in Parliament House and I have something to share with you this morning. Just an example of how the mainstream media is complete and total garbage and how you should not be watching the mainstream media, how you should reject the mainstream media, and also how X, formerly known as Twitter, is the media now. X is the media now. I said that right. Now, many of you may have heard, or perhaps you may not have heard, of the recent Donald Trump fake news hoax that the mainstream media is trying to shove down all of our throats. It is the Bloodbath hoax.
Appearing at a rally in Dayton, he addressed the crowd speculating what would happen if he loses the upcoming presidential election.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole... That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
A comment saying that there would be a bloodbath in the country if he wasn't reelected in November.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
Jews will not replace us.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Are you willing to condemn white supremacists and militia groups from elections?
Stand back and stand by.
Please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
There'll be a lot of pardons and commutations of January 6th defendants.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell your supporters now, no matter what, no violence.
And it's going to be a bloodbath.
First of all, let me go through what the mainstream media is saying, and then I'll explain to you what actually happened. So as we all know, mainstream media does not like Donald Trump. They can't stand a man. They can't stand a man because they can't control him. They can't stand a man because he fights for you, because he fights for the average man and woman.
They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. It's very simple. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They want you silent. And I am the only one that can save this nation because you know they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving.
Now, a lot of people will ask me, Senator Babet, why do you care what happens in America? Why do you care about what happens with Donald Trump and the presidential race there? I care because the world was safer, better, richer, wealthier, more stable under President Trump. And whether we like it or not, we are in the Anglosphere. We are in their orbit. For Australia to be safe, prosperous, and successful, we need Mr. Trump, President Trump, 45 and hopefully 47, back in the White House. If Joe Biden wins the next election, we are going to be a lot worse off. We know exactly what a Trump presidency looks like. And unfortunately, we also know what a Biden presidency looks like. Look how much worse off our lives have gotten under Joe Biden. Am I right? You know I'm right. So let's jump into this bloodbath hoax. Mainstream media, let's have a look. NBC News, Trump says there'll be a bloodbath if he loses the election. Now, keep in mind, most people read the headline and then they move on. Next one, the Telegraph over here. The New York Times. Trump says some migrants are not people and predicts a bloodbath if he loses. Let's go to the next one. NPR, mainstream media again. Trump says some migrants are not people and warns of a bloodbath if he loses. Not people and a bloodbath. Sounds pretty bad so far, right? Sounds pretty bad if you're just a casual observer. Next one. What's this one? This one here is from France 24. Trump warns US voters of a bloodbath if he loses presidential election. Next one. The Guardian. Don't you just love The Guardian? The Guardian. Trump predicts bloodbath if he loses election. Next one. Rolling Stone. Trump says there will be a bloodbath and elections will end if he isn't re-elected. Now, keep in mind, most people just glance past the headline and they move on, okay? Next one. The Independent. Donald Trump warns of a bloodbath in US if he isn't elected as president again. Politico. Trump says country faces bloodbath if Biden wins in November. The Telegraph again. Trump warns of bloodbath if he loses presidential election. Next one, the Economic Times, US presidential elections. Donald Trump warns of bloodbath if he is not elected president. I'm going to keep going through a few more of these just so you understand how deep and wide this psyop is, how pervasive mainstream media lies can be and how far they travel. Forbes, an even darker Trump, warns of bloodbath if not elected and calls some migrants animals and not people. There's another one of the lies there. First of all, bloodbath, and then calling migrants not people. We'll get into that, what he means by that. Next one, Economic Times. Trump warns of bloodbath if not elected, says US democracy would end. I'll just give you one last one because there's so many of these. Washington Post, Trump says undocumented immigrants are not people. Right, so all these media headlines, if you were a casual observer and you read all of those, you would think that this man is the worst person in the world, but it is actually not what he was talking about. What these mainstream media platforms have done is they've done what they always do. They've lied by omission. They've lied by only giving you a half truth, by only giving you a few words from a very long speech that he had given quite recently. And the speech was about the economy. What he was talking about is that there would be a bloodbath in the automotive industry if he didn't win the next election and Biden won the next election. You know what? Let's listen to exactly what he had to say. And then once you hear what he had to say, it's only about a minute long, you tell me what you make of it. Here it is.
Unbelievable when I see it going. But I got to know all these people. They're very smart, very streetwise. And I would do the same thing. If I had prisons that were teeming with MS-13 and all sorts of people that they've got to take care of for the next 50 years, right? Young people, they're in jail for years, and if you call them people, I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion, but I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says that's a terrible thing to say.
Kidnapping, extortion, murder. The calling cards of MS-13, a brutal and highly organized gang.
It is a terrorist organization. And this, both sides will tell you, is a war.
They say you have to vote against him because did you hear what he said about humanity? I've seen the humanity, and these are bad. These are animals, okay? And we have to stop it. We can't have another Laken. We have so many people. We have so many people being hurt so badly and being killed. They're sending their prisoners to see us. And they're bringing them right to the border. And they're dropping them off, and we're allowing them to come in. And these are tougher than anybody we've got in the country. These are hardened criminals. And we've got hundreds of thousands of them. And we're not going to take it. We're just not going to take it. They are destroying our country. I'm telling you, he's the worst president we've ever had and the most incompetent president we've ever had. And he's also the most crooked president we have ever had. Now, other than that, I think he's doing an excellent job. Do we agree? And the head of the United Auto Workers never probably shook hands with a Republican before. They're destroying. You know, Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us now. We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
As you can see there, very clearly talking about the economy, not talking about a call to violence or anything like that, like these mainstream media articles might have you believe. This is how the mainstream media twists the narrative. This is how the mainstream media convinces NPCs to believe something. What is an NPC? Which is what I think, in my opinion, most people who don't like Donald Trump are. What they do is they'll read headlines and they'll go on later on and they'll just regurgitate the headline. So you might talk to someone, they might meet you at the water fountain and say, oh, did you know that Donald Trump said that there'll be a bloodbath if he's elected? What a terrible guy, blah, blah, blah. These people don't have their own thoughts in their head. Kind of like this. An NPC is a non-player character. That's what it stands for. Have you ever played a video game or seen someone playing a video game where there's a character that's controlled by the computer and they just repeat the same lines over and over again because that's what they've been programmed with? That's what most people do when it comes to mainstream media articles. They read the headline and they regurgitate whatever the headline says without a single original thought of their own in their head. Try it next time you talk to someone who doesn't like Donald Trump. They'll say, oh, he's a criminal, he's this and that. Your very next line is, give me an example of what you mean by that. They can't do it because they're NPCs. They're only able to repeat mainstream media headlines and talking points. You know what? The mainstream media cannot be trusted. The mainstream media is done for. Stop watching mainstream media. Stop reading mainstream media. Instead, follow independent journalists, people like Topher Field from the Aussie Wire, Rukshan Fernando, Avi Yemeni, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire, etc. The days of the mainstream media journalists have to end. If they don't end, our countries, both our country here, Australia, and other Western nations are finished. So, with that being said, have a nice day, stay blessed, and X is the media now. Thank you so much. Great job, Elon Musk.
Look at me. Sure. Look at me. Sure. I'm the captain now.